You know what? I'm going to stick my head over the top there. Now everybody, I'm going to leave you. Don't be afraid. You're going to stay with me. What I'm going to do is put my head over the top there and see if there isn't something there that those birds are shouting at. You should still be able to hear and see me. Well, unless of course I'm mauled by something. So fear not. I'm going to be very quiet now. I'm not sure. Can you hear me, Brian? I'm just not sure that that duiker would have come running down here if it had spotted a predator. Still got me, Brian? I cannot see anything through here. I can see the birds. Can see the batises. Still got me? It might be that they're just shouting at the deeply offensive noise being made by the builders. But I see nothing through here, everyone. The mystery continues. Still got me? Astounding. Good news. Alright, I think we should go around to the Djuma Dam pan, see what we can find there. What I didn't want to do was step over the top of the hole that was over here. To have avoided that successfully. Less and lack. Keep an eye on the dam pan throughout the day. There's something going on here. Something's going on. Alright, let's go and see what else we can find. Righty. Matthew, you're wondering about whether it's difficult or different, I think, to travel through the bush at different times of year. It's very different, Matthew. It's different on account of the fact that the bush never looks the same 2 months or 1 month to the next. And I think Brian would back me up here when I say that whenever we go away on leave and we come back 2 weeks later, everything always looks different. There's some hyena tracks here, but they're not very fresh. So, yeah, Matthew, it's never the same. This is the best game viewing time. You know, you're going... People often say, when should we come across here? What's the best time of the year to come? There isn't a best time, but if you want to... I mean, the easiest game viewing time, possibly the least attractive in the bush time, is this. So you see the most game when there are no leaves on the trees, when it's all kind of sticks and grey and a bit of gold and copper, then that's the best time of the year to come and see animals, because the bush is so much more open than it is at any other time of the year. But it's also quite harsh. If you're not used to it, it's quite a harsh look to it. And then in summertime, Matthew, it's green and very beautiful and verdant and very thick, which means it's very easy for the animals to hide, even easier than it has been for whatever it is that we just saw. And nobody has found a cat today. It's all been rather quiet on the cat front. Cat in Tampa, a good question from you. You say, could that hammering be scaring the cats away? I don't think so, no. I mean, you know, they're so used to that camp. That camp's been built there, and there are repairs done almost on a daily basis. So, I mean, there's often noise in the camp. We often see leopards around the camp. So, no, I don't think it's frightening them away. It's frightening me away, definitely. But it's certainly not frightening the cats. And it's funny, I mean, the reason we're putting the ceilings in, of course, is because it's so hot in summer. And so those tin roofs were a bit sort of oven-like last year, wasn't it, Brian? It was very ovenish. Horrifyingly ovenish. Now there are some Nyalas. Let's just have a stop and look at them. There we are. Female Nyala. We're just listening carefully and enjoying the atmosphere. Very pleasant wind now. It's swung to the southeast, which tells me that those fronts that have been battering the Cape are now making their way up here. So I think we won't have a warm 29 degrees tomorrow. I'll probably be proved completely wrong. Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio. I heard somebody say that Tingana and Shadow had crossed over Gari Main into Hoffman's. It's interesting. I'm just listening now. Sounds like they've crossed, everyone. There's a lovely little herd of Nyala coming down. Sounds like they've crossed out. That's very interesting. Okay, well, let's go and see what else we can find. It's quite a cool breeze now coming out of the southeast. Hello, Rachel. You're wondering if I have any wild stories of being attacked by animals in the bush. Not really. Rachel, I try to avoid being attacked by animals in the bush as a rule of thumb. I find being attacked by animals deeply unpleasant. But there have been times when I've got a little bit too close to animals. And we had an experience just 2 days ago. Rachel, I think it's your daughter I'm talking to, who's 9 years old. And Rachel's daughter, aged 9, we had an incident 2 days ago. Viam and I, we were sitting on Cheetah Plains and we were watching an elephant cow. And she didn't seem to like us very much. She started flicking her leg from side to side. You know how when you go to school and maybe you meet a new person, or your teacher shouts at somebody, and so you get a little bit nervous and you start fiddling with your pen or your crayon, or perhaps you start playing with your shirt. That's what the elephant was doing. So she was moving her leg up and down as if to say, I'm not very comfortable with you. And then, as we drove past her, she turned around and she went, and she started running straight towards us. So we drove off very quickly, and she chased us down the road. And it was very scary indeed, but we managed to get away. But the whole message of that story, Rachel, and Rachel's daughter, age 9, is that we made the animal feel afraid in some way. We don't really know how we made that happen. But that's the only time that an animal will try and chase you, only when it feels afraid. And we don't know why that animal was afraid, but because she was afraid, she chased us. Anyway, those are the kind of situations you do get into. But although they make nice stories to tell everyone, they are not stories that necessarily, well, sometimes they're a bit sad, really, because it means that you've made an animal feel sad, or the animal's felt threatened by you. And so while they're exciting stories to tell, they're always tinged, for me, with a little bit of kind of, gee, I wonder why they did that. I wonder why they felt so threatened that they decided to chase us. I've had 1 or 2 incidents with leopards and their cubs, and leopards and wild dogs. The leopard jumped onto the car, and that was very scary indeed. My guests all thought it was part of the show. It wasn't. They nearly died. They didn't realize. Now this is where the Nkuhumas were last time we saw them. Diva, you're wondering if leopards are more aggressive when they're mating. I imagine they are, absolutely. I think the action of mating probably raises the testosterone levels that a male leopard has, and testosterone is going to result in a heightened aggression. The females, I think, are so, I mean, it's difficult to say, you know, you've seen leopards mating before. They are so filled with hormones, they're so driven to try and mate, that I think, yes, they probably are possibly slightly more likely to give you what we call a rev, so to maybe give you a bit of a chase. But, you know, you hear them when they're mating, you hear her growling at him, and you hear them making that sound when they do it. And so you can kind of stay away from them. I've never walked into a pair of leopards by mistake. I've heard them on foot and gone back and found them in the car, but I've never actually sort of stumbled on them, so I couldn't tell you if they were that much more angry than they would be normally. Just going to do a brief look up here, and then I think we're going to go back down towards the south to where we last saw Karula, because no one knows where she is. Everyone from this end of the world has now gone north into Buffelshoek, so we're on our own over here. They were all coming this way to hopefully see Tingana and Shadow in the throes of their passion. I think let's turn around here. Unless, let's not turn around here. Let's go around to Hyena Road and see if we aren't lucky that side. Now the last time we saw the Birmingham boys and those cubs, they were underneath a bush there, that bushel, and the cubs were down in the drainage line down the other side. Almost impossible to see. I don't think it's worth having a look in there because that was 2 days ago. So let's continue to the top of this road here. And Lucia, you're interested in funny stories that I might have had while on drive with guests. Well, Lucia, ooh, there's a Battalier. Almost fully adult plumage, just not quite. Young Miss Battalier, you can see a female. And now you can see the great blue African sky as the Battalier flew away. Lucia, by far the most varied, most hilarious, and most astonishing creature on planet Earth, of course, is the human being. And so I have got hundreds of stories about guests that have done strange things. Many of those stories are in the books that I wrote, because people used to say, you have to write a book about this stuff, you can't believe that people behave like this. And they do. And so I did write 2 books about it, and the books are not about, they're called, you know, the first one's called A Year in the Wild, and it's about being in the bush, but it's not the animal stories that make people want to read them. It's the behavior of the human beings that you come across that make you want to just sort of cringe and disown members of your own species. I'm trying to think of some particularly outlandish ones. My favorite story ever of 2 guests was some New Yorkers who came out here. I don't know why they came out here, but Dad didn't want to be here. Mum and son were absolutely terrified to the point of being catatonic just about. They're very sweet people, and there was a son, and I don't remember him saying one word in the 3 days that I looked after them. Not the son, the daughter. I don't remember the daughter saying a thing in the 3 days that I looked after them. And one night we were driving home, trying to find something to look at, and we saw a chameleon. And many of you would have seen a chameleon with us, and Johnson, who was the tracker, he was fantastic. he shone the light on the chameleon, and he said, in his extremely deep voice, he said, "Chameleon." So I said, "Look, everybody, there's a chameleon." And they said from the back of the car, they said, Mrs. said, "What should we call them?" We'll call them, I don't know, let's just call them Smith for now. Mrs. Smith said, "Why you stop him?" I said, "Well, because there's a chameleon over there." She said, "Oh my God, is it poisonous?" So I said, No, Judy, it's not poisonous at all. It's a chameleon. It changes colour. It's a really interesting thing." And before I could get any further into my explanation of the astonishing biology of the flap-necked chameleon, Judy said the following: "Oh my God, there's a snake! There's a snake! Drive! Drive! It's coming this way!" I said, "Judy, hold on." And Johnson says to me, "It's a branch." She says, "It's not a branch, it's a snake, it's coming this way, drive!" And she became utterly hysterical. So I did this. We were looking at the chameleon over there. There was the chameleon, and I went like this, because I was now well, slightly irritated. I started the engine, I went like this. At which point the tracker basically fell out of the car because he was laughing so much. And as I slowed down, she says, "Why are you slowing down? They're coming!" So I eventually stopped, I don't know, some distance down the road. There's some zebras in front of us. They're going to be very frightened by the next bit of the story. So I stopped the car, calmed them down. I said, "Now look, I promise you there was no snake." And the son said, "I also saw the snake, Mom, I saw it." And so I said, "Really?" He said, "The snake I saw was green." And she said, "Oh my God, there were two of them. The snake I saw was gold with black stripes on it." So instead of thinking the obvious, which was, "Oh, then there wasn't a snake," Mum goes, "Oh my God, there were two snakes chasing us down the road! Drive! Drive! Get us home!" And that's my story of the guests. There are the zebras. Very nice. And I know many of you have tried and been very kind to try and get hold of my books in the United States. I've spoken to the publishers, but I'm afraid it's just not worth their while to send the printed versions to the States. And it would be rather expensive if I was to try and sort of package them and send them from Hoedspruit. If you really want them, I suppose I could do that, but I'm afraid it would cost you probably a lot more than they're worth. If you want to read them, your best option, I'm afraid, is the digital version. And, well, you know what? You could wait, too. I had some feedback yesterday from my publishers. I've just done an audiobook version of the first book. And there are one or two more edits that we have to do. And then you can have me read it to you, if you like. So that's an option too. Otherwise, you need to be on Kindle, I'm afraid, because I've tried and failed to get them sent in print version to the United States. I think you will find the story of the two snakes in that book, amongst many others. I can tell you another one just now too if you want. Driving over leopards, you want to know if leopards give birth more than once a year. Not leopards, zebras. Given their gestation period, they cannot give birth more than once a year. They have a gestation period driving over leopards, which is a slightly disturbing Twitter handle. They have a gestation period of about 11 months. Which means they can only give birth once a year pretty much. And yeah, that's what it'll be. I think you'll probably find that they give birth to two foals every 3 years or so. So they have, no, I'm talking rubbish. They probably give birth to 2 foals every 4 years, because they take a little while to wean. So every 3.5 years, probably 2 foals or so. But it is a long gestation. It's 11 months, which is quite a lot longer than other animals of the same size. I mean, they're a little bit heavier than our heaviest antelope. A big zebra stallion will weigh 350 kilograms, and that in pounds is about 900 pounds. So it's, well, 800 pounds. It's a heavy animal, and so they do take a little bit longer gestation-wise. Judy H, I'm so sorry I used your name, because I didn't really mean to. It's just the first one that popped into my mouth. You say, on behalf of all Judys, you want to disclaim any relationship to, oh my God, Judy from New York. Well, Judy H, I would never compare someone of your vast natural knowledge with Judy Smith from New York, she who was chased by the gold and striped snake as well as the green one. Alrighty then, let's carry on down the road here. Riker, I think you might be right. You say a good book name would be Confessions of a Safari Guide. Indeed. A friend of mine said 50 Shades of Khaki might be quite a good book for me to write. I don't think that I'm going to write that book, though. Certainly not from first hand, anyway. Let's just pop down Hyena Road here and see if we can't find any lion tracks. If we don't, I'll tell you another one of those ridiculous stories. And Rob in Liverpool, very good question. You say, have I ever had anybody try and depart the safari vehicle while on safari? Yes, I have. People do that sort of thing, especially if they drop something out of the car. So if you stop next to a lion pride and they take out their cameras, often it's normally a lens cap that will be dropped, and you'll be talking, the lions will be there, you've got your guest set up there, everything's textbook perfect, and you're talking about the lions, and you hear a ta-tung-tung. You look behind you and there's a guest scrabbling around in the bushes looking for his lens cap just outside the car. You say, what are you doing? Get in the car! And they stand up and look surprised. And thankfully, I mean, this chap who I'm talking about was on the right-hand side of the car and the lions were on the left, and so they didn't kind of react to him. They didn't notice. They were all fast asleep. And people do that kind of ridiculously stupid thing. And the interesting thing is then you have to be quite rude. Now, these are people paying top dollar for your company, for you to guide them. And sometimes you've got to be quite firm. And I remember we had while we look at this Impala glorifying in the gorgeous golden light, as the sun begins its inexorable sink towards the west, a German fellow who came on safari, and his camera bag consisted of a number of plastic bags. Now, you all know that it is completely impossible. You've all tried to eat potato chips quietly. It's not possible. You've all tried to pull things out of plastic bags quietly, and it simply isn't possible. Anyway, we were at a leopard sighting. There was a leopard in the tree above us, and it wasn't very relaxed. It was quite nervous, and it had sort of climbed up a tree. I'd parked under the tree not knowing where its kill was, and the leopard came towards us and then went up into the tree, and then only did we notice the kill. And I'd parked closer than I would have if I'd known that it had been in the tree. Anyway, this fellow then began to take his camera equipment out of these plastic shopping bags, and the leopard did not enjoy the sound of the crinkling packets, and it started to growl. So I turned round and I said, sorry, Hans, could you just shh, just be quiet. And I put my finger to my lips, and the rustling ceased, and then it began again. And the leopard began to go, and I said, Hans, please stop that. He said, but I want to take a picture of the leopard. So I said to him, yes, but the leopard is cross. You can't make a noise. You need to be quiet. Yeah, he says. Silence. Leopard relaxes, begins to eat. And then the inexorable rapping of the rustling of the papers began again. And the leopard stood up and went, "Arr!" like that at us. And Hans went, dropped all his things. And I said, "Don't stop it! Put it down and don't move again!" And he looked at me like this and he said, "But I want to take a picture of the leopard." And I said, "Well, the leopard doesn't want you to take a picture of her." And we left. Now, this poor fellow, of course, was paying for my company. But you have to be like that sometimes, otherwise people will get themselves into quite a lot of trouble. And I don't know that his name was Hans, actually. Hello, Gracie, aged 9. Well, 9 and 2 days. You say you found that snake story funny. Well, thank you very much, Gracie. And you also say that you find snakes quite scary, but you promise not to tell me if you ever see one. I don't mind if you see a real snake and you say you're scared. That's absolutely fine. But when you imagine a snake and say you're scared and make me drive away very fast, well, then I'm going to tell stories. Now, there's a vulture up ahead. There's a vulture flying away up ahead. I don't know what it was looking at, but it seems to be on its own and therefore unlikely to be surrounded by a great pride of lions devouring a giraffe. Riker, yes? Some guests do indeed get mad if you don't find the animals that they want to see. I have another story for you. We were down the road, 7 kilometers down the road at Londolozi, and I was enjoying what I felt. Oh, Brian, is it, Brian? Could it be? No, it's a vulture. Every bird I see now, I think, could it be the Wahlberg's eagle that I failed to find? That is a vulture. Wahlberg's eagle, everybody, one of the first migrants back, and they should be back by now. I think it's probably just my poor observational skills that have precluded us seeing one just yet. Anyway, that's a vulture, very high up, enjoying a spectacular view of the Lowveld. Now, Riker, what was the story? Oh, yes. Right, so I was having a night off, and of course there's nothing lazier in the world than a safari guide, by the way. So we always think that we're tired, and we always think we deserve time off. There's very little in the world that is lazier. So I was being lazy and decided that I was going to have a nice night off, and then suddenly there was a knock on my door, and there was a panicked sort of camp manager there saying, "You have to come and drive because there's been a complaint about this ranger and his guests demanding another ranger." And the ranger in question who'd been complained about, I knew to be one of the most professional, one of the most competent, one of the most sensitive, and I just thought this, I mean, he was twice the guide I ever was. So I thought this was a bit odd. Anyway, he was just quite young, so he didn't really know how to handle, I think, these guests. So I went down and I met these people who I was going to take out in the morning. And this chap looked at me. You know, he was a kind of fellow who you immediately dislike on sight, because he looks at you as if you are his servant, which I suppose as a guide you are in some ways, but, you know, by and large, people are quite interested in what you have to say if they've taken the time and trouble to come to a safari lodge. Anyway, this guy looks me up and down once. He says, he was right from the East End of London. He says, "Is you our new driver?" So I said, well, I'm your new guide. Yes. He says, right. Well, I came here to see a kill, right? I've seen kills on the TV. I came here to see a kill. I told my guide today, I said, look here, I want to see a kill. The guide says he's going to do his best to find a kill for us, right? Did he find a kill? No, he didn't. So I come back here and I say, where's the kill? Why didn't you show us a kill? And he says, well, I think it's totally unacceptable. I come here, I pay all this money, and now I want to see a kill. I bring my girlfriend here, she also wants to see a kill, and we ain't seen a kill. We see nothing here. All we've seen is some elephants, some rhino, a couple of buffalo, and some lions lying on the ground. I want to see a kill. So I looked at this fellow and I said, well, there's some vultures coming off the ground there. That could be where that buffalo kill was. Just 1 second, I will get back to my story. Did you go in there, Brian? Was that where it was?
I think so.
Let's just go back there and see if those lions aren't there. Brian will guide us in, I hope. Was it from here or was it from...
Yeah, he did it from here.
From here.
But it's a long way from there.
Is it? Long way, okay. Well, let's just keep going around the place here. So I said to him, well, you know, it's not unusual. I've been working in the bush now for close on 10 years. I've seen maybe 3 or 4 kills in my time. He says, don't give me your stories. I don't care. I want to see a kill. And his girlfriend at this point, who is got more makeup or more paint on her face than a sort of your average house. And she's also got, I think she's probably had the early, you know, Botox wasn't much of the rage back then, but she's had quite a lot of the early form of it. So her face was completely immobile. She was unable to move. And so through these lifts that the good Lord did not give her, she said, I also want to see a kill. I came here to see a kill. We haven't seen a kill. We need to see a kill. So I thought I understood what she meant. And I said, well, we'll do what we can in the morning. This was after the evening game drive. So off we went in the morning. And it was beastly hot. Beastly hot. We saw 1 steenbok, 1 duiker, and that was all in 4.5 hours of game drive. Well, the red-faced, angry, irritated East Ender, I think, left the lodge, if I'm not mistaken, that very day, complaining deeply. And he actually, I think he did pay his bill, but there was one incident with a guest who refused to pay his bill because he had not seen a white rhino. He said, your brochure has got a white rhino on the front of it. I came here, I didn't see a white rhino on my safari, so I'm paying my bill. That's false advertising, that is. You can't put that on your brochure, not show people. I'm not paying for nothing. I think he was threatened with legal action and eventually did pay. Those are my guest stories, which could probably, if you get 2 guides around a fire, you hear these things going on and on and on. And Alex, you want to know how often we get to see predators on the hunt? On the hunt, not uncommonly. Actually killing, very uncommon. We don't see it a lot. It often happens at night. And you know, I often think that our presence at a hunt really does have a negative effect on the animal's ability to hunt, because we make a noise. You start the engine and an impala will just look up like that, even if they're not particularly alarmed, and they're going to see whatever it is you're following. Right, now let's just try and figure out what happened here. Brian, you say they're in here somewhere, hey? So do you think it's... Well, there weren't any lions on it when you left it last? And I just see some vultures coming off the ground there. Just wondering where those lions have gone. No, I think somebody did check it this morning, everyone, so I don't think we're going to go in there. There were no tracks from Hyena Road going in. So let's go to Buffelshoek Dam and see what we can spot through there. It's not too far from here. Thank you very much for your screenshots of my facial expressions. Thank you, Brian, for focusing on my appalling face.
You are very welcome.
Thank you so much. Yes. We also often used to get asked, who is the worst nationality to have on drive with you? And everybody who isn't American immediately expects you going to say Americans. Universally not the case. We found South Africans to be the most difficult guests to have, mostly because they thought they knew everything and seldom knew anything at all. And most of the American guests we had out here were, I would say, by and large, highly educated, well informed, and they wouldn't have been here, you see, if they had been otherwise. So I know that our vast majority of our audience, our viewers, are Americans, and you can rest assured that your countrymen, when they came out here, apart from being rather amusing, as was the case with the snake lady, they were by and large extremely pleasant human beings with a pretty good knowledge of the wild. I thought I'd better throw that in there because sometimes I attempt to use American accents. Tony, you want to know about the ostrich situation? Have we managed to find any yet with our attraction method? For those of you who don't know what Tony's talking about, Hayden taught us an emu attracting technique where you lie on the ground and kick your legs in the air, and apparently the emus come, and indeed there is a video of them on YouTube being attracted by a guy doing that. Oh, and it was actually Tony who asked Hayden, I believe. So Tony, you asked Hayden. I don't think he tried it with any ostriches. I haven't actually seen any ostriches to try it with. We did do it the other day just by way of demonstration and practice on Cheetah Plains. So if we see them there, I'm almost certainly going to get out of the car and do the attraction dance. And the reason that I say almost certainly, the only thing that will stop me doing that is the presence of other vehicles, because I fear me, were you to be a guest from Cheetah Plains and some imbecile from Wild Earth were to come along, get out of the car and start kicking his legs in the air, I imagine you might lay a complaint fairly shortly thereafter. I don't really want a phone call from Graham Wallington saying, did you lie on the ground and kick your legs in the air in front of an ostrich sighting on Cheetah Plains? If the answer to that question is no, then you don't mind the question. But if the answer is yes, it will probably be followed by a very severe reprimand. Hello, Linda. You say, you're wondering how many years of this wondrous show you've missed. Linda, it depends entirely on how many years you've been watching for. We've been going for 9 years. I've only been here 18 months. Brian, you've been on and off for 3 years. But it hasn't been 9 years continuously. As far as I understand it, there have been kind of seasons, basically. Probably 3 months at a time, I think it started off as. And then... And I think it's probably must be around about this month that it's been going 2 years permanently. October for 2 years permanently. So in October, everyone, it will be 2 years running every single day, which I think is a wonderful achievement. And you know, we do want to grow the audience. We love our audience, but of course, the more people that watch, the longer we're going to be able to do for. We went through Nyala Road North Dip, and then as we got picture back, I was quickly gargling some salt water, which you didn't need to see, and so we held you off for a few seconds longer, but here you are. We're heading towards Biffle's Hook Dam in the hopes of finding something there. It's been a little bit scarce on the animal front today. Brian, we have seen buffalo.
We have an Impala.
An Impala.
Nyala.
Nyala.
Some birds.
Some birds. It's been cooking. And a duiker, remainder the duiker, and an unidentified spotted yet yellow cat.
Mystery animal.
The mystery spotted yellow cat. Brilliant. Which will haunt us for the rest of our days. Alright, let us continue along to the dam. Martin, you want to know if I've ever seen a crocodile on drive? I'm going to say yes, I have. I mean, you mean at Djuma, obviously. At Londolozi, where I used to work, and at Nyala, further north, there was a bit more water, and so we used to see crocodiles regularly. I've seen one crocodile here, and that was in Sydney's dam at a vast distance. Some people still dispute whether I saw the crocodile or not. I am convinced that I did see it. But it's not common here. They have seen once or twice here in Buffelshoek Dam. You're very unlikely to see one now because there's not much water. But they've increased the size of the dam substantially over the last sort of few months. And I think when the predicted deluge arrives, it would not be surprising every so often to find a crocodile in a water source like this. They move quite big distances between... Lion! Yes, please. Brian, don't leave me hanging, thank you. Hello, Lion. Thank goodness for your presence.
We have seen this guy sneaking through the bushes.
We couldn't have seen this lioness, surely. All is right with the world. Hello, you beautiful woman. Isn't that lovely? Let's keep watching. I'm just going to call her in. Stations 1 Lioness, Buffelshoek Dam, mobile in a southerly direction. We will try and follow up. I have done Hyena Road. She's calling, she's calling. I don't know what she's calling. Now, I'm going to excuse the noise already because it's going to get noisy if we try and follow her through there. Negative, got the animal, but she's now mobile southwest into some thick bush. Oh, much tree. On the termite mound there, down the other side. Sorry, go again with that text. Watch out there, everybody. Yeah, she's calling, so I think there are others around here. Negative, now west. Can you see anything, Brian? I can't believe this. Surely our afternoon with the lioness cannot be over. A comment from Kirsten Max Smith in the final control, who says Catterday has been saved. Indeed, Catterday has been saved. Have you got it? Well done, Brian. With the cubs. Oh, you're a genius. We may not have any signal here. Brilliant. Yeah, Tax, she's here. We've got her with the 3 youngsters. It's quite thick bush, and they do seem to be mobile. Oh, isn't that lovely? Okay, she's calling. I've just got to try and get Tax into this sighting. That's fantastic, isn't it? The 3 little ones. These are the 3 littlest ones. 2 males, 1 female. She's calling something or someone. Let me move forward, sorry everyone. Now, stations, this is not going to be an easy place to get into, but you're welcome to try. Best approach at the moment is to come from the dam And you'll see my tracks going off on the the southern side of the main drainage. And you'll see my tracks going in there. Just follow along there. So everybody's now trying to get in here. Oh, look at them! And Tax says that the tracks of her are coming from the north. Maybe she's left them from there. They're going to come straight past the front of us now. Look. They're looking very skinny suddenly. They were looking very fat the other day. That's normal. Yeah, affirmative. One. There are 4 cubs there. 5 cubs. There are 5 cubs there, everybody. These are not the little ones. Sorry, I didn't even notice that. Alright, they've gone down into this big drainage now. That's why they look a bit skinnier. They're the same ones we had the other day. Oh, okay, so there are 3 with her now, 4 with her now, and 1 in front of us. I'm just going to try and get Tax in here. Tax, are you on my tracks? Okay, she's lying down now. Now we can move a bit and get into a decent position. The 4 of them are there. I think, what do you think, Brian? From the top there, maybe we'll get a good view. I now cannot hear the game drive radio. She's moving. Stations, these...
Brian.
She's now going up into the drainage.
Standing by yours? Yeah, wait.
Brian? What do you think?
I think it's doable.
You think it's doable? Okay, well... Here we go, everyone. These are strychnos trees, don't worry about them. Wait, hang on. We've got the radio. I'm caught again. The radio's not working. These poor guys are trying to get hold of me. Yeah, there we go. Where they gone? Sorry guys, my radio is really struggling here. Tax, they're now mobile into the drainage to the south of the dam, the main drainage. They might be coming towards the dam. They are coming towards the dam, and it's 5 youngsters and the 1 female.
Okay, I'll try to go around, yeah. Alright, thanks, Jim.
Tax, you'll get them from the dam wall.
Can I wait here for the dam?
Yeah, go onto the dam wall and wait there, guys. I'm astounded we still have signal. This is absolutely incredible.
And
That's why I have to be tagged there, standby.
Isn't this fantastic? We are so lucky to have got in here.
So, Andrew, what's been my call now?
Okay, good thing. So for now, it's going to take standby.
Yeah, sure.
There they go.
Thanks. For me, it's complicated because I'm waiting for them to get out. So maybe I'll leave for you guys.
No, I don't think we can get out here.
Try not to be taking too long. So try to share.
We're not going to have long in here, everybody. There are about 7,000 people who want to come and share cat a day with us.
Also going to take a standby.
Andrew, where are you? No, Andrew, where are you now?
I'm in the boundary. Coming west.
Confirm Cheetah Plains. Sorry, everybody. Just trying to.
Cheetah Plains and Beverfield and the boundary.
Okay, copy that. Just make your way straight in. I'll pull out for you.
My wingman is so wait for him to get out. So no rush from my side.
Okay, anybody else who wants to come and have a look, I think the sighting will be closed in the next half hour or so. If you want to come and have a look, I'll move out for you. They're just in the drainage line here, everybody. There we go. Well, as soon as it's dark, we can't put light on them. Sometimes. Oh, and they're calling now. Wonderful stuff. Sorry about the radio, it just is. Nobody's seen any cats today.
Well, James was calling me to get in, and then you on standby to go. One Cheetah, maybe, pretty much him. Copy that. Just need to make sure if Aubrey's moving in as a third vehicle.
Oh, look at all of them. I'm sure they're going into Buffelshoek. I wonder if there isn't a kill inside Buffelshoek, everyone. Stations on standby. Make your way straight here. We'll make space for you guys. They're going to go north, probably into Buffelshoek fairly soon.
Okay, copy. I'm right down. We're all coming together at the same time.
So we're not going to have long, I'm afraid, but that's okay. You can see she's lactating heavily. I don't know whether we still haven't seen the female with the 3 smallest cubs for a few days. Last station, go again. No problem. You may also hear the machine gun fire of cameras on the vehicle next to us. There's some lenses there, everybody, that could take a picture of these cats from Houston, Texas, and still get a full frame shot. Now look, remember we were talking about the camouflage earlier on today. Just look how incredibly well coloured they are. I'm afraid I think this is probably going to be our last view. Well, no one else is here for now, so I think we can probably carry on. How are you? Good. Good, I'm glad. That's a guest in Buffelshoek who we know quite well, who says that she finds the program rather addictive. I think this might be our last view, everyone. Stations, these animals are now mobile north from the dam wall into the block. 4. Yeah. Aubrey, what's your position? Sorry chaps, I'm sorry about the radio, it just has to be managed quite carefully. Oh, there's a hippo in the dam. Okay, we're going to pull out because we're not going to be able to see them again before somebody else gets in here. Copy, I'm going to leave the sighting with Tax and Buffels Hook Station there. Aubrey and Mike moving in. Hooray! Well done, Brian. I think we just made everyone's day. There is a hippopotamus. Wasn't that nice, everyone? Oh, I understand now why my radio wasn't working. My radio wasn't working because my brain is very small, and I managed to pull out my earpiece, which is why Louise has been deadly silent. Louise, I'm back. Aha, sorry about that. And there is a lapwing and little babies. Can you see the babies? 2 baby lapwings. Do you think they're stalking that hippo? Now, I believe that some of you know that there are Safari Live viewers on Taxon's vehicle, and what a joy it is for them to see these animals that they follow every day live. Just brilliant stuff. And I'm so glad that they've managed to see them live. Now we can see the baby lapwing there, just moving, beautifully camouflaged, stalking the hippopotamus. I'm so glad we've sorted out the problem with why the radio wasn't working. It wasn't the radio at all, of course, my brain. I can only see one. Can you see the other one, Brian?
No, maybe I was mistaken.
Well, I mean, they are the size and colour of elephant dung. There, hang on. Yeah, I can only see the one, everyone. Maybe they've lost one already. Oh, well, I'm just sort of, my heart is still sort of calming slightly after she went to fetch those cubs. I think, unfortunately, she's definitely taken them into Buffels Hook now, and I suspect quite strongly that they've got a kill there, which is good for them. I do wonder where our other one is, though, our other female with the smallest cubs. Hello, Donna. You want to know how many birds make nests on the ground? You don't really understand why they do it. Well, the francolins make nests on the ground. All of the lapwings and the plovers and the coursers make nests on the ground. Guinea fowl make nests on the ground. And they all have, I think there are probably a few others that I'm leaving out, but these things all have one thing in common, Donna, and that is that they cannot perch. Bless you, Brian. Brian just coughed up a lung there. They have one thing in common, and that is that they cannot perch. So that bird there, the lapwing, has adapted to being able to run on the ground, and they run on the ground and catch insects on the ground. That's called coursing. Now, in order to do that, they've had to sacrifice. Look at them, they chase those little 3-banded plovers. They don't like them. Woo. The tiny little 3-banded plover is being harassed by that lapwing. that lapwing does not have a hind toe, and so they cannot perch. Now, obviously, the advantages of being able to perch have been outweighed, at least the advantages of being able to course after their prey on the ground have been outweighed by the disadvantages of being able to perch. If you cannot perch, you cannot put a nest in a tree. It's not possible. And so what you find is that these little things obviously build their nests on the ground, but they are so well camouflaged that usually, I mean, we had that amazing example of the course on the ground today. There'll be eggs in that little nest, and they're so well camouflaged and so well hidden from smell and all that sort of thing that you find it still is a highly successful strategy. So I know it sort of at face value it seems very strange that a bird would choose to put its eggs on the ground, but it actually works very well. And now, Fiona, you say, is this blacksmith lapwing also known as a blacksmith plover? Yes, it used to be. They don't call them plovers anymore because they are from a slightly different lineage to that three-banded plover. So the little ones, the white-fronted, and you know, the whole lot of different kinds of plovers. White-fronted, we get here. We get the kitlets here. We get the three-banded here. They're much smaller than these things. They're now called lapwings, as are the crowned lapwings, for example, and the Senegal lapwings, which all used to be called plovers, but they're now called lapwings, just to distinguish them from the much smaller plovers. Lovely sighting. But I think I might have recovered sufficiently in order to be able to drive on. I'm just going to put on my jersey, Brian. It's getting a little cold, isn't it? Yes. If you would like to take a moment to put on your jersey, please feel free. Of course, we can't go across to Brent to put our jerseys on, so you might have to just be patient with us for a second. I just wish you could have heard, everybody, how the radio exploded to life like a Metallica concert in full flow as we found those cats. It was quite terrifying. Everyone was desperate for Cat a Day to live up to its name. Right, now the sun's gone down, everybody, and as you know, we don't look at young cubs after sunset, and Brian, we probably also shouldn't look at young plovers either, should we? No, we need to move away, give them their space, let them have a good evening on their own. Let us continue. Hooray! I feel deeply satisfied now, deeply satisfied. I'm not sure why I feel so deeply satisfied. There was zero skill involved in that. It was entirely by blind luck that we saw those lions, but we'll take it with both hands. Just happened to be in the right place at the right time. So much of this game is about doing that. Just looking there. No, those are guys who are leaving the sighting, I think. But there are the viewers, everybody. They're on those two cars, on the one on the left. And one of them said to me as we drove past, she said, I'm just telling all that they can stop there. Go for it, I'm on my way out. One of them said to me, she looked at me and she said, you know, I found Karula yesterday. So I said, oh, well, thank you for finding Karula. Could you do it again today? And she said she'd try her best, but hasn't managed just yet. Velma and Valerie on Taxon's vehicle. And I certainly remember those names. And it's so, I tell you, it gives me a real kick whenever we drive past. It's normally it's unusual to find them here. They're normally at Cheetah Plains or at Arathusa because you have to book the whole camp to come and stay here. But it always gives me such a kick to go past and somebody says, you see them waving from miles away, because it's like you're with these people every single day, and yeah, they become friends who you've never met before. So it's always lovely to have somebody waving and saying hi to you from the back of another vehicle. Alrighty. Janine in Washington State. I mean, I could try and dredge some up, I suppose. You say, do I have any stories about guests from whom I learnt quite a lot? Any stories about my favourite guests? Janine, I do. I'm not sure that they'll be quite as amusing as the stories I told you earlier on. But, you know, I learnt something from just about every single guest I ever had. Well, here's one that sticks out in my mind. We had a situation where we had a big group coming in from Coca-Cola in the States, and they came in to the lodge, and I was my guest climbed on, and the CFO was there, and he was a black man, and I assumed he was an African American. So I made some sarky quip in Shangaan to my tracker, and Elvis and I had a big giggle. And this guy responded in fluent Shangaan, and he was the CEO or CFO of the group. So I mean, he was the big cheese of the group, and he'd grown up in this area right here, and emigrated during apartheid and made a huge success of himself in the States. And I'd just assumed that he was an African American, and he was a South African, which is why they ended up where they did. Anyway, over the course of the next 4 days, he took it in very good grace, the quip that I'd made, and I was very embarrassed, as I should have been. And he took it upon himself to teach me all sorts of things about the bush that he had learned when he grew up living in Bushbuck Ridge around this area. So that's a wonderful memory I have, mainly because he taught me never to take things at face value, people especially. And he taught, I mean, quite apart from the practical things that he taught me about the plants that they used to use. It was like, you know how Herbie teaches us every time we go out and drive with him? This chap did the same thing. It was amazing. So that's one story. I'm trying to think of some of the others. And it was just so deeply embarrassing to start with. But he was very kind about my inappropriate young man's speech. I suppose at least I said it vaguely in a language that was unusual to hear a white man speak. What else can I tell you about guests that I have learnt from? I used to have one or two families who would come through and request me, and so I'd always drive them, and that was always special, you know. It was always then you really developed a friendship with people, and I used to love driving. There were an old couple from the United Kingdom called the Corns, Terry and Andrew, and Terry and Andrew used to come out every so often, and it was like meeting a sort of an aged aunt and uncle who would they just felt like almost like home, you know, because you met them every so often and spoken on email and written letters. Terry used to write letters to me in the days when email was absolutely the part of the thing. People had stopped writing letters for years, and she used to write me these long airgram letters, you know, those airmail things that you sort of fold up the envelope and paper in one. That was wonderful always. And then I'd reply with email, because the concept of sending a letter had long since left me. So I used to learn quite a lot from them. And I used to love, you know, when I had nice guests, I used to really enjoy sitting around the table with them at night time and finding out where they were from, you know, different parts of the world. And if they were forthcoming, it was always great to sit and talk to them about where they were from. Especially, you know, the thing that people ask you when they come out here is, you know, it's almost always, what is your favorite animal? What have you, how do you train to do what you do? And, you know, what's your job like, kind of thing. Those are the sorts of questions we used to get asked. And, yeah, yeah, I mean, you always don't, you never mind answering them, but it's always nice to have people who you could question. It was always quite nice after, a game drive like this where you've been talking and presenting and showing people this and that and next thing. It's always very nice to have the opportunity to quiz people from around the world about where they lived and the nature, especially in the places they lived. There's a drongo, and we're into that stage of the day now, of course, the changing of the guard, and the drongos are making their late evening calls. And while we listened to that bird making that call, I remember once I was playing the guitar for some guests, and all of a sudden a trumpet began playing. And I looked behind me, and my guest had brought out a trumpet unannounced, and there he played with me, and he turned out to be a kind of really superstar New York jazz musician. So, I mean, I quickly retired and just let him play because he was so fantastic. Those are the kinds of experiences that were just fantastic and I'll remember forever. Then a question from James Taylor, an appropriate name for a musical conversation, although your question has nothing to do with music. You want to know about hummingbirds and whether we get them here? We don't. We get something called a sunbird, and on account of the fact that there's nothing else to show you right now, I'm going to show you a picture of a sunbird. James, we get lots of colourful sunbirds that look very similar to hummingbirds but are not the same, because hummingbirds have evolved in a different place, but to accommodate or to take advantage of ecological conditions that are similar to the ones that there are here. I'm going to have to look it up in the... I'm looking under H for hummingbird, which of course we don't get here. Sunbird 410. Okay, and so they look very similar to the hummingbirds, but they're not related. And there they are. That's some of them. And they don't hover quite as well as your hummingbirds, but they do drink nectar, and that's why they've got those long bills, which of course all the hummingbirds do. Beautifully coloured birds. They're a bit bigger than most of the hummingbirds, I think. They're certainly much bigger than, for example, the bumblebee hummingbird, which is the smallest hummingbird in the world, but you can see how stunning they are. Pretty, pretty birds. Very nice. What a wonderful evening. Okay, let's just continue. We might be lucky to see another cat on our way home to make it cat a day squared, Brian.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Cat a day squared. Yes, indeed. You know what? I was thinking about this earlier on. Cat... sorry, I've lost the name. Louise, go again with that? Catherine. Yes, that's right. Catherine in Texas, you say, what is my favourite spot on Djuma? And I was thinking today, as a theme for a drive, it might be quite a nice idea to go from favourite spot to favourite spot, especially if you are not seeing much. Catherine, I know exactly where my favourite spot on Djuma is. It is that one, we can't get to it right now before the end of the drive. But it's that spot at the junction of Zoe's and Rebecca's Road where that big brown ivory is, and it looks out west over the mountains and you can see the koppies of Ulusaba and down all the way to the Drakensberg, and it's the best western facing view that there is on this reserve, and that's definitely my favourite spot on the reserve. I've sat there many times on my days off, reading, learning about bits and pieces, taking pictures, none of which are worth showing you, but that is definitely my best spot. My second best spot, third best spot is just up here. We'll go and have a look there. Then I would imagine my second best spot being many places in the Mulwati drainage, because they're just so deeply shaded and very beautiful. And as I've told many of you, I had an incredible experience the other day. Now this is an on-foot experience that I really like to share with people because it was so unthreatening, but it was so close at the same time. And I was sitting in the drainage system on a chair. I passed out in the middle of the day. I was quite tired, and it was a lovely day, and I just dozed off. And I woke up thinking there's something amiss around here, and I looked up, and 6 meters away she'd just come across the drainage line, and she was just looking at me like this was Karula. She was just looking, and as our eyes locked, she kind of looked. I like to think she actually nodded, but I don't think she did. And then she just walked gently off into the bush on her way to do her hunting. That, for me, is the ultimate kind of on-foot experience, where there's an acknowledgement, a total lack of threat, a total lack of conflict or engagement, and then the animal moves off. Just brilliant, brilliant stuff. Here are some kudu. I was hoping to show you a bit of the Drakensberg from here, because this is my third favourite spot we're at now. It's a nice viewpoint, but there's so much haze and smoke, so we're not going to be able to see the mountains. Isn't that nice? Oh, Rebecca in Santa Barbara, California. A very interesting question from you. And I would like you to ask Brent Leo Smith the same thing the next time you see him. Your question is a good one. You say, do I ever get or miss meeting the constant flow of people, the ins and outs of new people every day? Do I miss that ever through a commercial tourism lodge? Rebecca, I don't miss it for one day, and it's because I found it exhausting, and that is nothing to do with the guests that I had, because by and large they were wonderful people who'd taken the time and effort to come out to South Africa, and I appreciated and still appreciate their presence and all they taught me. And I just tell those rather amusing stories because, well, they're the few and far between, and they're quite funny. But largely they were great. But I found the activity of actually guiding people deeply exhausting. And it's because, and many of you are going to think this is a ridiculous statement, but I'm a tremendous introvert. I'm very shy. And what that means, many actors are actually, many people who like to perform are very shy. They're one-on-one with people they find very difficult, and it saps their energy, and I definitely find that. So being a guide had a shelf life for me of about 2 years. Doing what I do now, I far, far prefer, because there's a greater variety of conversation that we have. I suppose there is a separation between you and I through the lens, but I don't know, I just find it easier to do what I do now than meeting people constantly all the time. And I think it's also got to do with the depth of knowledge that we're able to share with you, our regular viewers, because you know so much more, and so the conversations we have tend to be that much more interesting. Now, if you ask someone like Brent, I'm not sure if he misses guiding, but Brent is a brilliant guide. You know, Brent is a people person. He's an extrovert. He draws his energy from meeting people. And you can see it. I mean, whenever that he and I have been to a social gathering like a wedding or something like that, he is front and center meeting new people, and I tend to kind of go into the shadows a little. So it's quite an interesting thing that the two of us with our different personalities have ended up doing what we do here. So Rebecca, there's your answer. Let us continue, Brian. Did you see me bearing my soul there, Brian? Did you see that? Yes. Still haven't managed to cry yet.
One day. One day.
Now, apparently, Brian says to me, and we've said this, when did we explain this? The other night. The other night Brian explained that you can't be a proper presenter until you've cried live on air. And I thought maybe I would cry there as I was bearing my soul, but I didn't. And so we're still going to have to make that happen at some stage. Let's go down here towards the Mwati drainage. See if we can't find Kurula there. Hello, Aqua from Honolulu. Aloha. You want to know what I like to know about my guests? Well, depends entirely on the guests, Aqua. Some guests I've wanted to know very little about. Indeed, their name was quite sufficient to put me off entirely. Others I wanted to know quite a lot more about. For example, one of the guests I had, she and I struck up quite a firm relationship, and for many years we were sort of boyfriend and girlfriend, actually. She lived in Colorado, and it worked quite nicely because I'm only tolerable for about 2 weeks at a time, after which I become deeply painful. So we'd see each other for 2 weeks and then sort of have 3 months off, by which time she missed me again and we could see each other again. So that was the kind of spectrum, Aqua. But it really did depend on the people. What I really liked to know from people was whether they could give me some kind of life lesson, whether there wasn't, because I mean many of the people we spoke to were, and who came on drives, because of the cost of the places where I used to work, they were highly educated. They were captains of industry often, and they had, you often assumed that they would have some kind of interesting philosophy and take on life that you could learn from. And funnily enough, I remember being almost universally disappointed by the obvious philosophies, and so it was normally the others, the less captain of industry type of people from whom I got the most. And so I was always looking for some sort of gem of life secret or life answer, or some kind of little indicator or nugget, if you like, of information or insight into the human condition. And those are the kind of guests who I really enjoyed having. I may have told you the story before, but I remember Now, Snow, you say I've just made you feel good for feeling an introvert yourself. Well, Snow, I'm glad you feel good about being an introvert. I do too now. But it's amazing how many people, how many actors who you would imagine, and I mean, I'm in no way comparing myself with the great actors of the world, but if you name some of the actors who you would imagine to have a really, rock stars, for example, you would see on stage and you think, well, they must be the most extroverted person in the world. Often it's completely opposite. I remember the day, we were talking about guests and doing what I do now versus driving guests. I remember the day that I realized that guests and I were no longer meant to be together. And I may have told, I'm sure I've told you the story before, but if I have, you'll have to hear it again, and for those who haven't, well, here you go. I was standing on the deck where I used to work, and we used to get these things called a cheat sheet. A cheat sheet was what the receptionist gave you when you came down to tea in the afternoon to meet your new guests, and on your cheat sheet were the names of your guests, so that when you were driving along and you'd forgotten what they were called, you could just take it out and say, well, John, yes, indeed, that is a lilac-breasted roller, and Lynn, yeah, absolutely, you may borrow my binoculars, here they are. And then everybody thought that you'd remembered their names, which in my case I almost inevitably forgot 2 seconds after I met them. Anyway, this receptionist gave me my cheat sheet. She said, there are your guests coming now. And they were walking down. It was an excited family in matching safari gear. I looked at them and I knew that I didn't want to meet them, because it was just time for me to finish up being a guide. And from then on I sought to do something else, which is when I went into the land management side of things and the conservation work and the research, which was very interesting. But I have to tell you, these last 18 months that I've been here doing what I've been doing here have unquestionably been the best 18 months of my bush career. Right, Brent Leo Smith, astoundingly, is up and running. Let's go and say hello and possibly goodbye to him.
Well, the good news is both James and I are done with this stuff, so you'll have us both
out for the full drives on the Sunrise Safari tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more luck with the leopards at least, and I hear James did find some lions at the Buffels Hook waterhole. Now we did have tracks around there, so I'm very happy that you did get to see some cats on Saturday, Cat-a-day, and I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow and the sunrise and sunset safari. And I do think there might be a fireside chat tomorrow. And I don't know if you saw the wonderfully written blog by Rebecca, which was exquisite apart from one minor detail. The rules of the ranger race. Rebecca has invented a new bird, the Wahlberg's eagle owl. So we do forgive her. It is of course meant to be a Wahlberg's eagle. If we discovered a Wahlberg's eagle owl, we would have discovered a brand new species to science. So maybe Rebecca is preempting our ranger race to discover a new species to science. And if so, well, congratulations, Rebecca. So it has been an interesting afternoon for us. And I always struggle with the non-live stuff. But it's all done, and hopefully it's going to look wonderful and beautiful. And now the next thing, fingers crossed for today, is that the mighty South African Springboks are playing against Argentina. So we've put it on record, and James and I are going to watch it as if it were live, which we are now. And speaking of James, VM and I say goodbye, and let's send you back across to him.
I just want to quickly show you the pinkening sky before we say goodbye, everyone. There it is, very beautiful, with a star up above it. Do you know what that star is, Brian?
Venus.
I'm assuming it's Venus, I don't know for sure though. Marvellous. I shall try and take a picture of it. No, looks dreadful. Hello, Livin, you very hilarious human being. You say, basically, this has been a philosophary. Well, I suppose it has been something of a philosophy. Thank you, Niven. Let's continue home. One last little pass through Ingwe Alley to see if Karula isn't around. But I fear me someone would have found her by now. A philosophy. Thank you, Niven. Oh, thank you, Aaron, in New Zealand. You say, friends you have never met describes very nicely the Safari Live community. Yes, I think you're absolutely right. Friends you've never met, and some of whom I've been very honoured to meet, of course, who've come through here to see us. And I hope many more of you will be able to do that over the years. Mostly, of course, I hope that you'll be able to come and see these places and animals, and long after Brent and Jamie and I and Brian and VM and all the rest have moved on, or perhaps moved to different places, the animals of this great place will continue to create stories that we just kind of interpret for you. And so regardless of who's here, I hope that one day you'll all be able to come up and visit this incredible place. We'll just go to the junction of Ingwe Alley here, and then we'll say goodbye to you. Right, Brian? I must thank you profoundly for placing the camera at my face for the whole of the day. Thank you, Brian, and thank you to your stickman thumb there. Well done. A big thank you to all of you for your conversation and comment today. It really has been a great privilege to do this kind of solo drive. I hope that you have a wonderful evening or morning wherever you are. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Bye-bye.